This happened a few years ago. I was 35 at the time. My friends thought I should take a break from work. They suggested a camping trip to Cedar Falls National Forest. I thought it would be relaxing, so I went along. We set up camp by a clear lake surrounded by tall pine trees. The spot was beautiful, but something felt off from the start. That first night, I sat around the campfire with my friends. We were laughing, sharing stories. Then I heard laughter coming from the woods. It was faint but distinct. I looked at my friends, but they were too busy chatting. I thought maybe it was just some kids nearby, but I didn't see any other campers around. The next day, I took a walk near our campsite. I spotted strange markings on the trees. They looked like scratches or carvings. I wanted to ask my friends about it, but they were focused on fishing. I pushed it out of my mind. That night, we noticed the lantern swaying back and forth. There was no wind. We just stared at it, and I felt a chill run down my back. I felt silly for being scared, but I couldn't shake the feeling. By the second night, the laughter returned. It echoed through the pines, louder this time. I could see my friends looking at each other, unsure of what to think. One of them suggested investigating, but nobody wanted to. It felt wrong to go into those dark woods. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. On the last night, I wanted to act normal. We sat around the fire, but the atmosphere was tense. I glanced into the trees and saw a shadowy figure. My heart raced. I blinked, and it was gone. I thought maybe I imagined it, but then one friend shouted, "Who's there?" I felt my stomach drop. There was no answer. We shared worried glances and decided to go to our tents. I got into my tent, trying to calm down. I remembered the laughter. I just wanted to ignore it. But then I heard it again, right outside our campsite. It wasn't just laughter. It felt like whispering, too. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't find my voice. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination. It got quiet, and I thought maybe we were safe. But then I heard a soft rustling. It was coming closer, almost like someone was circling our tents. I lay still, unable to breathe. Suddenly, the rustling stopped. I waited, straining to hear anything. The only sound was my own heartbeat. Then I saw something in the corner of my tent, a shadow. I wanted to look, but fear held me down. I glanced outside, and there was nothing, just darkness. I don't know how long I stayed there until morning broke. My friends looked just as shaken as I felt. As we packed up to leave, I noticed those strange markings again. One was a deep cut, almost fresh. I felt a chill creep down my spine. What was happening there? I sometimes think about that trip. I still wonder if everything I saw was real. The laughter, the shadows. Did I imagine it all? I can't shake the feeling that something was watching us, waiting. Yet I still can't tell what truly happened that weekend. As we drove away from Cedar Falls, I tried to shake off the unsettling feeling. I wanted to convince myself it was all just strange coincidences, maybe even a bad case of nerves. My friends chatted in the car, laughing about the trip, but their laughter felt different this time. I didn't join in. I just stared out the window, lost in thought. A few days later, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to dig into the history of Cedar Falls National Forest. I went online and found an old forum filled with camping stories. As I scrolled through the posts, my heart sank. One thread caught my eye. People reported odd occurrences, strange noises, missing items, shadows moving in the woods. Others claimed to feel an unsettling presence. The more I read, the more unsettled I became. Something was wrong with that place. I texted my friends, asking if they remembered anything unusual. I wanted to see if they felt the same way. I voiced my concerns, and to my surprise, they replied almost immediately. They had sensed something too. They recounted scenes I had forgotten, details I hadn't emphasized. like the way the woods felt too quiet at times, an eerie stillness that made them uneasy. One friend texted, "I thought maybe it was just me being paranoid." That hit home. It wasn't just me. We all felt it. Then one evening, I received a message from one of them, a photo attached. It was a picture of that deep cut on the tree. The caption read, "This was taken the day we left. What do you think it means?" I stared at the photo, my stomach dropping. I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't help myself. There was something wrong. The marking looked even more pronounced now. I decided to return to the forest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to confront whatever this was. I reached out to my friends, but they were too scared to join. I respected their decision. Honestly, I was scared too, but I felt like I had to go alone. The following weekend, I drove back to Cedar Falls. The sun was setting as I parked my car near the trailhead, a wave of unease washing over me. As I hiked in, I tried to focus on the beauty surrounding me, the towering pines and the tranquil lake, but all I could think about was the feeling of being watched. I found the campsite we used, the tree with the cut standing like a sentinel. I felt a strange pull to it. As I approached, I noticed more markings on other trees, carvings that hadn't been there before. They looked almost like warnings. That's when I saw it, a flash of movement to my left. I turned quickly, but nothing was there. Just the trees, tall and silhouetted against the fading light. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. But deep down, I knew I wasn't alone. A whisper filled the air, faint but unmistakable. It sent chills through me, the laughter I had heard long ago echoing back. The haunting was real. I felt dizzy, disoriented. I needed to leave. But before I could turn back, something caught my eye on the ground, a small object glinting in the fading sunlight. I bent down to pick it up. It was a charm, shaped like an animal, worn but familiar, the kind of thing you might find in a child's pocket. As I held it, the whispering grew louder, swirling around me like leaves in the wind. I had found something, but it felt like something had found me too. There was no denying it now. I was in the thick of it. Then everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness enveloped me. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could hear my own breath echoing in the silence. I blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of the pitch blackness. Had I fainted? Was this some kind of trick? Just as abruptly as it had gone dark, a sliver of light pierced through. I squinted, and gradually my surroundings came back into focus. The trees loomed, tall and ominous, casting strange shadows that danced before me. But now there was something different, something new. The tree with the deep cut was glowing, faintly at first, shimmering in a way that felt almost alive. I stumbled forward, drawn to it against my better judgment. As I drew nearer, the whispering returned, but now it wasn't just a sound. It was like a low humming, resonating with the very ground beneath my feet. I reached out a tentative hand to touch the rough bark. Instantly, a jolt of electricity shot through me. My vision blurred again, flashes of movement skimming across the edges of my sight. My mind raced, trying to catch pieces of images that flickered like candlelight. Faces, dark and twisted, the charm clenched in their hands. "Let it go," a voice echoed softly, yet it felt like thunder. It was wrong, not a comfort, but a demand. Panic surged through me. I jerked my hand back, realizing the charm was still clenched in my grip. I could feel its weight, the pull of it, almost commanding me to stay. A sudden wrestle broke the stillness. My head snapped toward the sound, instincts kicking in. There was something moving in the underbrush, something or someone. I took a cautious step back, but even in the faint light, I could see it. A shadow that seemed to pulse, shifting. Like smoke. "Who's there?" I called, my voice rising in a mix of challenge and fear. No answer came, only the rustling growing louder, closer. It felt like the woods were alive, pushing against me, urging me to leave, but my feet felt glued to the ground. That's when I felt it, a chill creeping up my spine. I turned back to the glowing tree. The markings were swirling now, casting eerie patterns across the forest floor. They beckoned me, more insistent than ever. I was caught in their web, a moth drawn to the flame. Suddenly, the ground shook and I stumbled back, fear surging through me like electricity. I turned, ready to run, but there was nowhere to go. The whispering turned into a cacophony of voices, and as I looked around, shadows began to emerge from the trees. I had to escape. I bolted down the path, branches clawing at my clothes, my lungs burning with panic. I didn't stop until I reached my car, throwing myself inside and slamming the door shut. I looked back, breathless, but the forest stood still, its secrets hidden behind a veil of trees. I could still hear the whispers, though, hollow and relentless. They haunted me even as I drove away. Whatever that place had to offer, I knew I didn't want to find out. But deep down, I understood that this wasn't over. The charm in my pocket burned against my skin, and whatever I had uncovered in Cedar Falls wasn't going to let me go that easily. The next morning, I woke up restless, the events of last night replaying in my mind like a nightmare I couldn't shake off. I tried to convince myself that it was just a dream, a figment of my overactive imagination. But the charm pressed into my thigh reminded me it was all too real. I fished it out, studying its intricate designs. I needed answers. My first thought was to head back to Cedar Falls, but I hesitated. I could feel the forest's pull even from here, a dark thread connecting us. Instead, I decided to visit the local library. Maybe I could find something, anything, about what I experienced. The sun hung high in the sky as I stepped inside, the cool air refreshing against my skin. I approached the librarian and asked her about local legends, focusing on anything related to the woods near Cedar Falls. Her eyes narrowed, and I noticed a flicker of recognition. "There's something strange about that place," she said softly, glancing around as if someone might overhear. "People don't usually talk about it, but you should know that the old stories warn of entities that protect the forest, seeking those who disturb it." A sick feeling settled in my stomach. "What do you mean?" "Some say the trees can hear, can sense when you're near, and if you take something from them." She trailed off, leaving the implication hanging heavily in the air. I swallowed hard. I had taken something, and now it felt like it was demanding a price. "Do you have any books?" I asked, eager to learn more. She nodded and led me to a section filled with dusty volumes. I spent hours reading about folklore, old rituals, and the spirits tied to the land. It felt like the more I uncovered, the more tangled the web became. Then, just as I was about to give up, I found a small, weathered book detailing an ancient charm, a protector against malevolent spirits. My heartbeat quickened as I read about how it could draw the attention of dark forces, especially when misused. My fingers shook as I closed the book, realization crashing over me like a wave. I had to return the charm. It was the only way to stop whatever had been awakened in the forest. That evening, armed with the knowledge I had gleaned, I headed back to Cedar Falls. As I approached the familiar path, the shadows seemed to deepen, creeping closer than before. I steeled myself, remembering the librarian's warning as I clutched the charm tightly. Then, everything went dark again, enveloping me in a thick, suffocating fear. My heart raced, but I pushed forward, determined. The whispers from the night before began to rise in volume, wrapping around me like a storm. "Let it go," I heard once more, echoing through the silence. As I stumbled into the clearing, the glowing tree stood before me, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. This time, I didn't come for answers. I came to return what wasn't mine. Just as I lifted the charm over the scarred bark, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. "Who's there?" I called out, but the forest remained silent. That's when I saw it, a figure emerging from the shadows, eyes gleaming with a haunting familiarity. I froze, dread curling in my stomach. I didn't just come back to face the forest. I had come back to face something else entirely. The figure stepped closer, its form becoming clearer in the dim light. It was a woman, but her features felt distorted, like a reflection in a warped mirror. Her eyes, cold and unyielding, seemed to pierce through me. I recognized her. Aria, my childhood friend who had vanished during our last camping trip in these woods years ago. "Aria?" I whispered, a mix of disbelief and dread flooding my senses. She didn't respond, just stood there, unmoving, her gaze fixed on the charm in my hand. "What happened to you?" I stammered, taking a tentative step forward. She remained silent, but I could feel a tension building in the air, something heavy and alive. The whispers grew louder, drowning out my thoughts. "Let it go," they insisted again, wrapping around me like chains. I glanced down at the charm, the twisted metal glinting ominously. In that moment, I realized I had to make a choice: return the charm or confront whatever had taken Aria. "Why are you
here?" I asked, my voice shaking. If she was truly here, then she had to know something about the darkness that had consumed her. Still, she stayed silent. I felt the weight of the forest pressing down on me, demanding answers as much as I did. My heart beat wildly in my chest. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, rustling the leaves and causing Aria's hair to sway, almost as if it was alive. It left an unsettling chill in its wake. I took another step, desperate for connection, for understanding. What do I need to do? Without warning, the ground trembled. The tree before me, once a beacon of light, now loomed ominously, its bark shifting into hideous faces carved by time. I jumped back, fear piercing through me. This wasn't just about Aria, it was about the forest itself and the wrath it harbored. "Return the charm!" The voices screamed this time, their urgency electrifying the air. I felt the pull of the forest intensifying and realized whatever power was at work was threatening to imprison me here forever. I looked back at Aria, searching for any sign of the girl I once knew. But instead, I found emptiness, a haunting reminder of what the woods could do. As the shadows encroached further, I took a deep breath and prepared to let go of the charm once and for all. Just as I was about to drop it, Aria suddenly spoke, her voice a mere breath. Don't let them take you too." The words hung heavy in the air, and everything fell silent. I felt a jolt of adrenaline surge through me. Suddenly, I understood. I wasn't just returning an object. I was battling something much darker, something that wanted both of us. "Aria, hold on!" I yelled, ready to make the sacrifice to set us both free. I could feel the power of the forest gathering around us, and just as it reached a crescendo, I released the charm, letting it fall toward the tree's twisted roots. A blinding flash ignited the clearing, and for a moment I felt weightless. Then screams erupted from the trees as the forest stirred violently. I could only watch as the shadows shifted, converging on the charm, trying to reclaim it. But in that chaos, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Aria was fading, her form flickering like an old film reel. "No!" I screamed, desperation clawing at me. "I won't lose you again." The last thing I heard was her voice, barely a whisper, carried by the wind. "Let it go." The clearing plunged into darkness as the flash faded, and I was left alone. Alone with the trees, the whispers, and the realization that I might have just unleashed something far worse. The darkness felt alive. Every rustle of leaves was like a taunt, a reminder that I was not alone in this suffocating silence. I stumbled backward, heart racing, the echo of Aria's Had I really just set her free? Or had I pushed her deeper into whatever darkness lurked in the forest? I blinked hard, trying to clear my head. The clearing that had felt so full of life moments before now shifted into something sinister. My mind raced, desperate to think clearly, but every thought was clouded by a fog of dread. The whispers had returned, low and sinister, swirling around me in a cacophony of mockery. Let it go. Let her go. Panic gripped me. I took off running through the trees, branches scratching at my skin as I made my way deeper into the woods. I didn't know what I was running from, but deep down I felt it, the presence watching. The forest was alive, and it wanted me as much as it had wanted Arya. I finally stumbled into a small grove, illuminated by a sliver of moonlight breaking through the canopy. I collapsed against the rough bark of a tree, gasping for breath. My hands shook as I pulled them to my chest. There was a strange weight inside me. The charm should have fallen away, but I could still feel it, a tether between me and the darkness. I had released it from my hand, but not from my being. Just then, a chill ran down my spine. I turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows. My heart dropped as I recognized it. Arya? But this time, it wasn't her. The silhouette morphed into the shape of another, a boy with wild eyes and a wolfish grin. "You've set her free," he said, voice smooth like honey and sinister like poison. I stepped back, fear clawing at my throat. "What do you want?" My voice was barely above a whisper. "Want? I want to play." He laughed, but the sound was hollow, echoing through the grove and wrapping around me. "The forest demands its tribute. You've given it Arya, and now you must choose. Do you become one with the shadows, or does someone else take her place?" I could feel the pull of fear tightening its grip on me. "No, I won't let you take anyone else." He stepped closer. "Then let's see how far your conviction goes. You've already almost lost her once. Can you bear to face the darkness yourself?" I felt the earth shudder beneath me, and the voices started up again, but this time they spoke as one. "Choose." The trees swayed, protesting against the bindings of the ghostly figure. My choice echoed in my mind. The forest sought a sacrifice. I needed to protect Arya, but what if her absence kept the darkness at bay? "I'll find her," I shouted, desperation fueling my voice. The boy's smile faded. "Then you'd better hurry. The forest doesn't wait for the foolhardy." And with that, he vanished into the shadows. I was left standing in the growing silence, the weight of my decision echoing in my heart. The trees loomed closer, threatening to close in around me. That's when I saw it, a glint of metal half buried in the dirt. It was familiar. With sudden clarity, I realized it was another charm, one that looked just like mine. My heart raced with confusion. Did they take one from someone else? I reached down to pick it up, and that's when I felt it, a surge of energy. The forest was stirring again, and I knew it was time to face whatever darkness I had unleashed. I gripped the charm tightly in my palm, the cold metal biting into my skin. This had to mean something. It couldn't just be a coincidence. What if it was a clue? My heart raced with hope and fear. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I scanned the grove. The shadows were shifting, closing in on me. The whispers returned, this time louder, more demanding. "Find her, before it's too late." I took a shaky breath and willed myself to focus. The forest wasn't just shadows and trees anymore. It was a puzzle I had to solve. I couldn't let fear consume me. I turned on my heel and sprinted, dodging branches and leaping over roots, desperate to find the path that led back to her. Suddenly, I heard a cry. It pierced through the night air and sent chills racing down my spine. "Arya?" My heart skipped. I skidded to a halt, straining my ears to locate its source. I didn't know if it was her, but something compelled me to follow the sound. The trees loomed tall and oppressive, but I pushed through the underbrush, each footfall an echo of my determination. I could hear the leaves whispering again, urging me forward. As I ran, the charm in my pocket pulsed with warmth, like it was alive. I could feel it tugging me, guiding me deeper into the labyrinth of darkness. Then I stumbled into another clearing. Moonlight poured in, revealing a scene that made my breath hitch in my throat. A circle of stones stood at the center, each one covered in strange symbols. They glimmered like eyes watching me, waiting for something. "Too slow," came a voice from the trees. I whipped around. The boy appeared again, his grin sharper and more menacing. "You think you can just take her back? The forest owes you nothing." "Where is she?" I demanded, fighting against the rising panic in my chest. He laughed, a sound that clawed at the edges of my sanity. "You still think you can save her? Saving is for heroes, and you've already failed once." He gestured toward the circle. "Join her in the shadows or remain here and rot." I felt my heart lurch, the weight of my indecision wrapped around me like a shroud. "No, I won't accept that." With a flick of his wrist, the symbols on the stones illuminated, casting a sickly green light. The whisper swelled into a cacophony, drowning out my thoughts. "Choose!" Frantically, I searched for answers, something to grasp onto. In the far corner of the clearing, I caught sight of movement. I squinted through the haze and saw her, Arya, standing just outside the glow of the stones, her eyes wide with fear. "Arya!" I yelled, desperation giving my voice strength. I surged toward her, but the moment I reached the edge of the circle, the ground trembled beneath me. The boy stood between us, shaking his head with a malicious smile. "You can't cross without a sacrifice." A sense of dread rooted me to the spot. I couldn't let the darkness consume her. I clutched the charm, feeling its heat pulse urgently. And in that moment, clarity struck like lightning. I had to choose the darkness, at least for now. "Take me, I'll take her place," I shouted, forcing the words past the rising fear. But instead of managing surprise, the boy laughed again, richer, more sinister. "Oh, it's not that simple, my friend." Just then, the charms in my pocket vibrated, igniting a pain that made me stumble back. The voices shifted into a singular entity. "You must pay the price." Everything around me began to twist and condense into blackness. The stakes were higher than ever, and I felt a dark tide begin to wash over me. I had to figure out more than just my fate. What price was I willing to pay to save her? The shadows were closing in, and whatever choice I made next could seal our fate forever. The darkness closed in faster than I could catch my breath. I felt the chill seeping into my bones as the boy's laughter echoed around me. I wanted to scream, wanted to lash out, but terror rooted me in place. "Move," I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. I closed my eyes. Focus. I couldn't let the shadows consume her. Arya was right there. I could still save her. With a surge of determination, I opened my eyes and charged at the circle's edge. "I can't leave her," I shouted, reaching for the warmth radiating from the charm. I needed to unlock its power, to use it against him. Before I could take another step, the ground convulsed beneath me, and I stumbled. The boy's grin widened as green light enveloped him. "You think a trinket can save her? This forest has its own will, and it requires payment." What payment? I racked my mind, my heart racing. Desperation clawed at me. Then it hit me. What if the charm wasn't just a key? What if it held memories, my memories? I needed to recall something, anything that would give me strength. I thought of Arya's laugh, her smile. She had always been the light. Taking a deep breath, I tightened my grip on the charm and shouted, "Show me the way!" The response was immediate. The symbols on the stones flared, and visions cascaded through my mind. Images swirled like a storm, hard and bright. Moments of laughter, terrible falls, and nights spent beneath the stars. The forest began to flicker around me like an old film reel, revealing hidden paths and faces of those who had come before. That's when I saw it. A flicker of white light, a path weaving through the shadows, leading away from the boy in the stones. My heart surged with hope. There was a way. "Arya," I called again, locked in purpose. "I'm coming for you." Ignoring the boy's warning cackle, I surged forward. The charm warmed in my palm, and the path appeared clearer, almost tangible. The edges of the clearing blurred as the darkness fought to keep me contained. Then I heard her voice, faint but clear. "Help me!" I wouldn't fail her this time. I slipped through the shadows, running toward the bright memory of her. As I approached the glow of the path, I felt a pull in my chest, an invisible tether tying me to Arya. The boy lunged after me, rage flickering in his eyes. "You can escape!" But I was no longer afraid. I bolted down the path, the charm burning fiercely in my hand. It was happening. I was breaking the hold of darkness. As I ran, I felt the weight of the charm shift, pushing me to remember more. Suddenly, the air crackled, and I felt a sharp pain in my arm as I dashed through. My vision blurred as the shadows shrieked, "What will it cost?" In that moment, I knew. There was a deeper sacrifice demanded. If I truly wanted to save Arya, I would have to give up a piece of myself, a memory, a bond, something vital to who I was. And the price felt monumental. But before I could process the weight of my choice, everything went dark. The ground disappeared beneath me, and I felt myself falling, tumbling into the unknown. What had I just agreed to? The stakes were higher than I could ever imagine. As the darkness closed in, the last thought in my mind was of Arya. Would it be enough to save her? I hit the ground hard, the impact jolting me awake. I gasped for air, fingers clutching the charm tightly. My surroundings were different, a swirling mist enveloping me, making it hard to see. Confusion set in like a cold blanket. Where was I? The air felt thick, almost suffocating. I took a shaky breath, scanning the area. There were no stones, no boy, just me and the whispering shadows closing in. I had to move, to find Arya. The urgency clamped down on me, forcing me to my feet. "Arya!" I called out, my voice echoing strangely in the stillness. There was no response. Panic began to creep in. Had I made it worse? Had I lost her forever? I focused on the charm. It pulsed in my hand, a heartbeat reminding me of my purpose. I remembered the flicker of white light, the path that could lead me to her. With every beat of the charm, a sense of determination flooded my veins. I had to keep going. Cautiously, I stepped forward into the mist. Each footfall was swallowed up, the silence pressing in around me. And then I saw it, a glimpse of light in the distance, flickering like a firefly. Hope surged through me, and I sprinted toward it, the charm guiding my way. The light grew brighter as I neared, illuminating an old campfire circle, its flames dancing cheerily despite the eerie surroundings. How could a fire exist here? I slowed my pace, hesitant. As I approached, I spotted silhouettes around the fire. Shadows darted in and out of view. My heart raced at the sight. They were figures I recognized, but they looked different, twisted, almost like they were stuck between worlds. "Arya?" I called, voice trembling. One silhouette turned toward me, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. It wasn't her. It was someone else, someone I had lost years ago. "Sam, what are you doing here?" I stammered, confusion flooding my mind. He smiled,
but it didn't reach his eyes. "You've made it this far. You really are brave." "Where's Arya?" I shot back, fear creeping in. "What have you done to her?" He chuckled softly. "It's not just about her, you know. You've opened a door. This place shows you what you must confront." A heavy weight hung in the air. I knew there were things I had left unresolved, choices I never made. Sam's face flickered, replaced by flashes of other lost memories, the shadows of my past. "I don't want to confront them," I muttered, stepping back. "I need to find Arya." "The forest demands balance," he replied cryptically. "Where there is darkness, light must pay the toll." And it hit me then. The cost I had to bear wasn't just a memory. It was a choice, an unwelcome reckoning of who I was and who I had become. Before I could ask him more, the ground shook beneath me, and the fire flickered violently. I stumbled back, and before I could regain my footing, the flames shot up, engulfing everything. That was when I saw the true horror, a different figure rising from the flames, a familiar face twisted by anger and sorrow. It was all the pain I had buried, coming back to the surface. I hadn't just come to find Arya. I had unleashed something greater and darker. The shadows closed in, and I realized I was running out of time. I had to escape this nightmare. But how could I leave without confronting what I had opened? The choice had been made, and now I had to face the consequences. The flames flickered again, and I braced myself for what was to come. What awaited me in this strange, shadowy confrontation? Would I finally understand the cost of what I had bargained for? The flames flickered ferociously, illuminating the faces of the memories I had buried deep within me. Each one a fragment of my past, twisting and writhing like figures trapped in the net of a dark dream. They whispered my name, drawing closer, wrapping me in their stories, both beautiful and haunting. I watched, frozen, as their pain intertwined with my own, until it felt like I was drowning in regret. "Face them," the twisted figure of Sam urged softly, his voice simultaneously comforting and insidious. "They won't let you go until you acknowledge what you've done." I blinked back tears, heart pounding against my chest. "I can't. If these shadows represent my past, I've moved on." "You haven't faced the truth," he replied firmly, shadows undulating behind him like a tide threatening to pull me under. "You thought running away would erase it, but it doesn't work that way. The forest reflects your fears. You have to confront them." A howl split the air, echoing through the clearing, and my heart clenched. "Arya!" I shouted, urgency washing over me. "I need to find her. I can't leave her." "Save her?" Sam's tone shifted, becoming more mocking. "You think she wants to return to you? She's been gone too long." "No!" I screamed, shaking my head violently. "I can't abandon her to this place." The shadows began to morph, revealing faces I had once cared for, all lost to time, all claiming scraps of my attention. "You abandoned us," they whispered, voices rising in a chorus drenched in sorrow. "You left us to fade." "Enough!" I shouted, my voice tearing through their chorus. My frustration ignited a flicker of defiance. "I'm not afraid of you anymore. You are the past, and I have the choice to fight." Just then, the forest around me shifted again, the trees bending low, their branches extending menacingly, as if trying to seal me off from escape. But I had come too far to be consumed once more. I focused on the charm still warm in my hand, recalling its ancient warmth, the sense of hope buried deep within its cool metal. "Let her go!" I yelled at the phantoms of my past. "You can't hold me hostage anymore. I'm reclaiming my right to happiness. I won't pay the price demanded of me." With every word, I felt a weight lifted. The flames flickered, their grasp loosening around my heart, giving way to clarity. The turmoil of loss began to dissolve, replaced by understanding. I had been the one to set this in motion, but I also possessed the power to end it. As if acknowledging my awakening,
The shadows convulsed once more, and ahead I finally saw her. Arya, just ahead, the light casting an ethereal glow around her. My pulse raced as a sense of determination surged through me. But the boy's laugh cut through my focus, echoing with grand malevolence. "You think you're free?" he called from the dark. "You still must decide." The forest trembled, and I would not let it consume me. Not again. "Leave her."
Alone. She belongs to the light, not the darkness. I cast my charm toward her, the act igniting a pulse of warmth that surged up and swirled around her. Arya stirred, eyes fluttering open, confusion dawning on her face. What's happening?" "Don't give in to them," I shouted, racing toward her. "We can escape together." With a sudden sweep, shadows lunged at me, eager to reclaim their prize. "She is ours! You will never share light with her." The whispering voices surged, threatening to drag me back into despair. "Release her!" I screamed, fighting against their hold. "You have no claim over us. You are just echoes of my fears." In that moment, a bright light radiated from the charm, enveloping everything, forcing the shadows back, blinding them with the purity of memory and love. Arya's eyes widened as the essence of hope expanded, encasing us both. "Let go of the darkness," I breathed, feeling the weight of my burden slip away. The very essence of the spirit charm resonated through the clearing, like an echo waking the forest. The shadows screamed, clawing at the light, desperate to reclaim their power. Together, we reached for the brightness, the warmth pulling us through, the landscape shifting and swirling until the weight of the world balanced upon our choices. Our memories became a bridge to freedom, not chains of guilt, but harmonies of understanding. The dark woods began to fade, the forest's grip faltering as laughter of joy echoed through it, reclaiming what it had lost. Then, just as we stood together at the threshold of escape, I looked back at the shadows, still swirling in agony. I didn't know if what remained would ever fade entirely, if the darkness would haunt us in our dreams. "Let's go, Arya," I urged, pulling her into the light. She grasped my hand tightly, and together we stepped forward, leaving the echoes behind. As the sunlight broke through the mist, the whispers faded, but I could still feel them in the back of my mind, a reminder that some shadows never leave us entirely, that the line between light and dark is intricate and always shifting. The forest slipped away, and I took a deep breath. Whatever had happened in Cedar Falls, whatever darkness had lingered, I knew now it was part of me, but it would never define me. Some questions would remain. I still wondered if I'd truly vanquished the shadows, or if the charm still held secrets of its own. As we walked away hand in hand, I realized the journey would continue, but I was no longer running from the past. It would always be a part of me, but never again would I let it be my master.